For years, we have been waiting for MAGA to abandon Trump, and dare I say, it may be actually possible right now. Don't want to jinx it, but is it possible they draw the line at presidential pedophilia? Meanwhile, a whole separate scandal is developing around mismanagement of the terrible tragedy in Texas. If we have time, we'll try to keep up with the latest on tariffs. And toward the end of the show, we'll be joined by independent U.S. Senator Angus King from the great state of Maine. Welcome back to the podcast for the 54% of Americans who regularly vote for progress in every election and want to convince their friends and family members to join our majority. This is Majority 54.
Well, Jason, obviously we'll start with Epstein here. Trump was asked, I mean, he's been talking about this a lot. He's been truthing about this a lot.
Against his will.
It's been a lot to talk about here. But let's just start with his most recent comments.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story?
I don't understand
about how it's been handled.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
By the way, was that Lutnick behind him? He's like
trying to figure out who that is.
He's like guffawing when Trump said fake news. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah.
He's like the worst fake laugh ever.
He's like, I got to do something here, otherwise I look like I don't know what he.
But Jason, Trump does raise an interesting question. Why are people obsessed with this?
Yeah, it's so boring, Ravi. Isn't it weird?
Why are they obsessed with this? I was thinking about it this morning, and then I stumbled upon this series of clips, and this is just people Trump has appointed in his senior members of his administration.
Law enforcement. Senior members of law enforcement in his administration.
So what people are about to hear is his attorney general multiple times, Pam Bondi, his director of his FBI, Kash Patel, the deputy director of the FBI. We could have added to this a lot of people like his own children, more clips of Trump himself. But this series of clips might help answer the question that Trump is posing here.
Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book.
FBI.
But who? That is I mean, there's
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
Put on your big boy pants, Jason.
Yes.
Why aren't your pants on? We're talking about pedophilia.
Well, we had on our little boy pants prior to that.
Oh, good. At least there are pants on before this is a weird image.
Maybe now it's boring. He's like, it's boring. Let me tell you how boring it is. There's not a lot of things that cut through to where I talk about it with my almost 12-year-old son politically, but he's like, Dad, what is, so we just talked about it. And I'm like, well, there was this island and that, and he's like, oh God. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I'll tell you what, it's not boring.
Right.
And that's the problem for Trump.
The sad thing is here, there's real victims here, and obviously, like, this has been a travesty. And the craziest thing about this whole thing is that somehow, until this past 2 weeks, this has been a Democratic scandal somehow, and like not a real scandal, but a totally contrived scandal. Meanwhile, Trump has had an ongoing relationship with Epstein. There are plenty of videos of the two together. He's admitted that he knew way back when that Epstein, decades ago, that Epstein was into underage women. He had that weird thing to say about Ghislaine Maxwell when she was arrested, saying, "I wish her the best." Epstein died while in Trump's custody, or the custody of the Trump administration, DOJ. Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney who cut the sweetheart deal with Epstein, was appointed as labor secretary afterwards by Trump, and Trump defended him while all the Epstein stuff was going down. Somehow, though, Jason, this until these past few weeks, this was a Democratic problem. Like, this was something Republicans were running on, which in hindsight is totally ludicrous.
And now it is a thing that was made up by Obama.
Yeah.
Now he says it was made up by Obama. Last week, Stephen, you were out, and Stephen, guest co-hosted Stephen Weber, and he had a great answer to this. I was like, look, I don't know. I was kind of him-hawing, like, why is Trump doing this? And Stephen just very plainly said, well, look, there's very strong circumstantial evidence that the president is a pedophile. And he just said it plainly. And when he said it, at first I was like, oh, you can't say that. And then I thought, no, that is an accurate statement, that there is strong circumstantial evidence that the president of the United States is a pedophile. And I was thinking about this the last couple of days, about how sometimes it feels like nothing cuts through anymore, and it doesn't matter what's what. This feels like it might be big enough to cut through regardless.
Yeah, and obviously Trump is rattled because people within, like, in this sort of inner tent, right, of MAGA have been freaking out about this. And so let me read you this from the New York Magazine. Talking head Tucker Carlson accused Bondi of covering up crimes. Far right activist Laura Loomer called Bondi a dumb, lying bimbo and urged Trump to fire her, or at least appoint a special counsel to do an independent investigation. Megyn Kelly predict Bondi's days are numbered because either lazy or incompetent, or she's willingly humiliated some of the president's most loyal supporters. Alex Jones cried on air. You can go on and on and on. I think we have a clip of Tucker Carlson recently.
Before we go to that, can we go to the one where Trump is standing next to Pam Bondi and is asked whether she has told him his name is in the file, and he pretends that she's not standing there and couldn't just turn and look at her and ask the question? So let's do that one first.
The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
What? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No. She's given us just a very quick briefing. And in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, and I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well. And it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
Yeah, so not Bondi. But what's interesting, though, Jason, in light of everything that the right is, like, these people on the right are saying, is what a lot of them are not yet doing. Some of them are, and we'll get to some of them, but what a lot of them have not yet done is criticize Trump himself. This is the variety of Trump criticism that is like the people around Trump, as if Bondi's making all these decisions. As we saw in this clip, Trump is defending her because this is coming from Trump. Whatever it is, and we will speculate in a second about what could be in these files, but whatever it is, Trump doesn't want it out. And Bondi is covering for him.
And you have, and which we'll get to here, the critics are like, why is this happening? Why is he doing this? People aren't ready to be like, because he's in there is why. But it feels like they're getting closer and more frustrated.
So let's pause for a second and speculate. So there are a couple layers of speculation. There's the whole question of why this issue, which I want to come to. But first, I want to speculate a little bit about what could be in these files. Now, what's puzzling about this whole thing is this is an administration that has no problem lying all the time. So why not just pick a couple names out that are associated with Democrats or just like financiers or whatever that aren't associated with MAGA, put them on a list, release that list, and exclude the people you don't want on that list. That's what I'm wondering. That's the kind of thing Trump would have done. But something about this is really odd. And I say it not meaning I actually know what it is. It's just super odd that they would behave this way.
There's clips of people like Pam Bondi saying that there are hours of tapes. I think that that's the problem. I think that, look, if you destroy evidence in an investigation, that's an actual crime. And there are probably people at the DOJ who are unwilling to do that or who are scared to do that. Because there are enough people that have seen this evidence now that they will know the evidence did exist. And in some subsequent administration, or if you just fall out of favor with Trump, you could be prosecuted for that.
Did you see that Dershowitz clips where he claims he has seen a list?
Yeah, let's watch that.
I don't know if we have that.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, let's play this.
So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them. And that's wrong.
So there are two ways we could describe Alan Dershowitz here. We could be like esteemed Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz, or we could be like famous loon Alan Dershowitz, who, by the way, has been implicated in all this, which must be whatever cases he's alluding to. I'm going to go with Harvard professor today just because it's more helpful to our cause. Harvard professor, Jason, Alan Dershowitz,
okay,
is raising serious questions here about what is in these lists. Now, the other thing is, let's say there's something damaged about Trump or people close to Trump in these files. What's amazing is that we just had a Democratic administration. I guess people were just like, hey, this and this is the right thing to do. Is like, hey, maybe it was not substantiated. So maybe because you've got to guarantee if there were unsubstantiated claims about Bill Clinton in there, that stuff would already be out, right?
Yes. Yeah. Here's what I think. I think Trump thinks Trump thinks he's on there, and I don't think Trump knows one way or the other. And I think he's trying to maintain plausible deniability by not asking. And I think the people around him who have looked at it know one way or the other. And I think he's picking up the strong signal that it's not good for him. I think conversations are going like this. I think it's like Pam Bondi saying, like, well, Mr. President, we don't think there's anything in there of note. And more importantly, we think that anything that is in there is going to seriously distract from our agenda. And I think he's picking up what they're laying down. Somebody pointed out that there are more videos of Donald Trump partying with Epstein than there are trans athletes in the NCAA. Like, this is a real thing. The chances that Donald Trump, aged hornball pervert, deviant that he is, never got on his best friend's plane and flew to the island. What do we think the chances of that are? And then what do we think the chances are that if he was on that island, he went, oh, I'm sorry, this is where I draw the line morally. Like honestly, what are the chances of that? Not high.
What's wild to me, though, is there are real victims out there. There are people who've investigated this. There are people like Dershowitz who may or may not have, because of litigation, been privy to something. Donald Trump is the most famous person on earth. There are tons of people motivated to put stuff out about him. How in the world has this not come out yet? Whatever the it is.
I genuinely think there's 7 people that have seen this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's right. I mean, there was whoever investigated it in the first place. There's a couple of prosecutors. There can't be that many people, particularly if it's as voluminous as they have previously claimed it to be in terms of the evidence file. And if you know that the evidence file is that large and you're Donald Trump and you know what you actually did and did not do, you are not interested in opening up that voluminous evidence file.
It's just breathtaking how much they've mismanaged this in light of everything we're saying. Like, there's no version of the story in which this was managed properly, obviously. Like, if there's nothing on there, then what in the hell are you doing? Like, if there is something on there, why were you saying there was a list and that you would release it at various points?
I'll tell you why, because
crazy.
it seemed to really motivate people, and Trump knew it might help him get back in the White House. And we have to remember, what was Trump running from? Prison.
Right.
So what's his motivation at that point to...
I'm talking about even since he won, though. Like, Pam Bondi being like, I got the list, you know?
Yes.
Here's Tucker Carlson talking about this.
We knew that. But the fact that the U.S. government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me. And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me...
So I have a... so let's...
Can I say, by the way, this is what I was talking about? We're not yet at the point where they will say his name.
Right. Some of them
Carlson said the U.S. government that I voted for. I mean, that's how they refer to these things in the UK,
right?
And Canada and parliamentary systems. It's not actually how we typically refer to things in this country. We don't say things like the government that I voted for, but he means Trump. But he's not yet ready to say it.
Yeah, and some people like Charlie Kirk have already, like, apparently Trump called people, like some of these people, and then got them to back down. Kirk says he's not going to talk about it anymore. There's a whole other sphere of people, though, like Andrew Schultz, who was on that stage.
Who are not partisans and are not beholden.
No, and they will say his name. I listened to Schultz yesterday, who's pretty on fire about this, and his frame is, I didn't vote for this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like mad that people are saying you did vote for this. You and I have talked about this before. Like, the honest reaction for me is, yeah, like, if you didn't know Trump is a liar,
I mean,
then I'm not sure.
There's gambling in this establishment. What's going on?
But let's permission structure. Yes, walk through the door, Andrew. Welcome back. I'm not going to be mad at you for coming to see the light today. Rogan talked about this too, relevantly. Here's Rogan.
He seemed kind of pissed.
Yeah.
They've got videotape, and all of a sudden they don't. You know, you have the director of the FBI on the show saying there's no if there was, nothing you're looking for is on those tapes. Like, what? Why did they say there was thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible shit? Why did they say that?
Right.
Didn't Pam Bondi say that?
What, are you talking about Epstein or Diddy?
Yeah, Epstein.
Yeah, she said it literally, I think, a week before you had the FBI director sitting here telling you there was nothing, right?
She said something about that there was like thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible crimes.
There is. And didn't the FBI dude say that there was nothing?
Kash Patel said there's nothing you're looking for. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to push back.
Right. No, of course.
Obviously, he's saying what he has to say.
Right.
Mystery surrounds the Jeffrey Epstein files after Bondi claims tens of thousands of videos. Tens of thousands. Jesus Christ.
I'll tell you what.
Chill. Oh, my God. Was reviewing tens of thousands of videos, the wealthy financier with children or child porn. The comment made to reporters at the White House days after a similar remark to a stranger with a hidden camera raised the stakes for President Donald Trump's administration to prove it has in its possession previously unseen compelling documents, or just bomb Iran, and everybody forgets.
Just bomb Iran, yeah.
Everybody forgets about it.
My favorite part of this is, what am I going to do? Push back? Yeah, Joe.
It's your job, Joe.
Please. Please do.
Also, this is what happens when, you can be anti-establishment for only so long. But at some point, when you're in your second term as president of the United States and you control everything, the people who you have, built your movement on for so long, which are anti-establishment conspiracy theorists, at some point, they're going to turn it on you. And that, I think, is kind of where we are now. Trump he's been an anti-establishment figure for a very long time, but now he's a second-term president who controls everything. And it's not like the conspiracy theorists who helped put him in office are going to stop conspiracy theorizing. And he's the establishment now.
Yeah, and this gets to why this is breaking through, right? Because there's so many important things that Trump has done that should make his base feel betrayed. But this obviously has broken through in a way that other things haven't. Now, is it going to break through in a way that's material? I have no idea. We've been through this many times. I don't know if we've been through this exact thing before, but history is not kind to any takes we've had about the final straw for Trump and his base. But obviously this is a more extreme reaction from his own people than we've seen on anything I can remember. And why is that the case? Well, we know the base case here, which is he's been talking about it, but he's been talking about a lot of things. Why this? I think it's because of the nature of conspiracy theories. So when you're talking to your people, and Rogan is a great example of this, and you tell them these stories of conspiracy theories, it strokes their vanity in two ways. One, it makes people feel special because they're like, oh, I'm in on the secret now. I know my brother's like this. You'll be like, oh, you're a sheep. You just accept the story. I know the real story. And it makes you feel special. So, but now you're piercing that bubble now. And you're being like, no, you're not special actually. And you're stupid. And you're being toyed with by the Democrats. And then you're like, wait a minute, this has been so central to my identity. But now you're telling me it's the Democrats who fooled me, but it's like none of this is making sense, right? And then the second thing is, it's like the Truman Show effect. It makes you feel special in a different way, which is, oh, there are people out there who care so much as to spin this yarn. They can make the sun come up and they can make it go down. They have, they're crisis actors around me. People care enough to curate my existence.
Yeah.
And now that's been pierced too. Right. So it's like, oh, there isn't this whole thing going on behind the scenes. I'm not special. I'm not special because I'm not in on some secret. Actually, I've been in on a lie and you've been selling me that. But also I'm not special because actually there's nobody out there trying to curate this fake existence to me. So now I'm a little lost. I've now been a warrior for you in this cause. And I don't know what my cause is anymore.
And you got me lost. Now
Yes.
I have to point this engine of anger somewhere. And now I will point it at you.
And it's a tell by how people. So when Alex Jones breaks down crying, that is a little bit more telling than what we saw from Tucker Carlson, right? This is what separates the real conspiracy theorists from the fraudulent ones. You could tell by how they react. They're all playing the game. Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson are using it to their advantage. People like Alex Jones and to a certain extent Rogan genuinely seem distraught. And those are the people who actually, I think their reaction is going to be a little bit more permanent, and perhaps even Schultz, right? Those are the people that I think it hits them at a different level.
I agree. All right. Should we get into FEMA and disaster relief here?
Yeah, maybe let's take a break first.
Yeah,
I think we got a couple ads here.
All right. Nutrafol, it's an investment in your hair and an investment in yourself. Just like hitting the gym or upgrading your wardrobe, taking care of your hair can boost your confidence and help you look and feel your best. Today's sponsor, Nutrafol, supports hair growth from within, targeting root causes of hair thinning for visibly thicker, fuller hair in just 3 to 6 months, so you can show up as your best self every day. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. Thinning hair is different for men and women, so a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. Nutrafol has multiple formulas for men and women that are tailored to different life stages, such as postpartum or menopause, and lifestyle factors such as a plant-based lifestyle, so you can get just what you need. Plus, users of Nutrafol Men reported no impact to sexual performance. Building a hair growth routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed. Enjoy free shipping, automated deliveries, and up to 20% savings with the Nutrafol subscription. Plus, get free naturopathic doctor consults and a Headspace meditation membership. Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code MAJORITY. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code MAJORITY. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code MAJORITY. Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise, filled with 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and other gummy junk growing kids should never eat. That's why Hiya was created, the pediatrician-approved superpowered chewable vitamin. While most children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar and can contribute to a variety of health issues, Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk, yet it tastes great and is perfect for picky eaters. My kids, by the way, are Bella in particular, are always trying to get away with eating more than one of these a day. And I'm like, no, you had that this morning because it tastes so good. She's like, I think I need my vitamin again. Hiya fills in the most common gaps in modern children's diets to provide the full body nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste they love. Formulated with the help of nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others to help support immunity, energy, brain function, mood, concentration, teeth, bones, and more. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/majority. This deal is not available on the regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/majority and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
All right. Well, we're still dealing with some fallout, both on the the tragedy itself, but the political fallout of this disaster down in Texas. Just crazy to think about what parents and the members of that camp are going through.
It's like I can't even really think about it very much. Like it's very
Horrible.
difficult.
Absolutely horrible. Kirsty Noem was asked about this on Meet the Press this weekend. Let's start here.
I do want to talk big picture in just a moment, but the New York Times is reporting that thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered in the middle of this ongoing disaster because you didn't renew contracts to keep call center staff in place until nearly 1 week after the floods. Why did it take so long to extend those contracts?
It's just false. Those contracts were in place. Nobody,
it didn't take 5 days.
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls. So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging that during this time when we have such a loss of life and so many people's lives have turned upside down, that people are playing politics with this because the response time was immediate. And if you talk to anyone in Texas that was there, that was a part of this operation, they would say the federal government and President Trump immediately responded.
Just to be very clear, on July 7th, 15.9% of calls were answered. I mean, does that concern you that only 15% of calls were answered? These are people in a desperate state. FEMA, often the first call that they make, only 15% were answered on July 7th, several days after the floods.
These contracts were in place and those people were in those call centers and they were picking up the phone and answering these calls from these individuals. So that report needs to be validified. I'm not certain it's accurate, and I'm not sure where it came from. And the individuals who are giving you information out of FEMA, I'd love to have them put their names behind it, because the anonymous attacks to politicize this situation is completely wrong. I care. These emergencies need.
Jason, we need to validify those facts.
Validified. These are not the droids you're looking for. And then when she says, like, I'm sorry, I'm not a weak-minded person on whom Jedi mind tricks don't work, she goes into that, was it like Shaggy, song that was like, wasn't me, they saw me on the counter, wasn't me. Like, it's just like, this is gaslighting. Like, that's what it is. Just, no, that's false. No, it's false. They were all there. They were all returning the calls. Well, here's the percentage. Nope, false.
Well, there's some statistics here, courtesy of The Atlantic. And hold on, I just got kicked out of my notes here. But The Atlantic had some good reporting here.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, there you go. Give it to us.
Is this the FEMA's response to the Texas flash flood? Has not been business as usual. It goes through. It says Noem didn't authorize FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams deployed in the past within hours during similar events until more than 72 hours after the flooding had begun, per CNN reporting. The agency failed to answer thousands of calls from flood survivors after allowing contracts for call center workers to lapse 1 day after the disaster, according to the Times. That's what was in the clip. FEMA had fewer than 100 people on the ground in Texas within 4 days of the disaster and 311 by day 5. Within a week of Hurricane Helene, during what Donald Trump deemed a failed response to the flooding, FEMA deployed 1,500. Several non-FEMA rescue teams from other states and Mexico traveled to Texas to help, supplementing Texas's own robust emergency response apparatus. But each of the other state teams waited on FEMA to call them up, as is protocol. FEMA didn't begin to activate any of them until last Monday, according to CNN. No missing person has been found alive since last Friday. I could keep going.
Yeah, that last part is key. They weren't activating. The thing is, this is a classic Doge story, whether this is all Doge or not. There's some Doge related stuff here that people were fired, and we talked about FEMA a couple of weeks ago and how the head of FEMA didn't even know there was a hurricane season and how that could be a problem. But the key here is resources. It's like the life-saving medicine and food sitting on pallets in boats situation. It's like, no matter, even if you buy the worst argument about government waste and this kind of stuff, nobody should be for people on the ground not being activated because you are too disorganized to sign off on something, right? That's the kind of stuff we see from this administration, where it's like not even about waste, fraud, and abuse, which this is the last area you'd want to be cutting as call centers or regional, the fact that there weren't regional directors in all the different regions throughout the deep South where the hurricanes are going to hit. All this is a problem. But the biggest problem is you're so incompetent and you're so focused on being a social media star, traveling down to El Salvador,
right?
That you can't have you know what it's like, Jason. You have to have people around you. You need to have people like, okay, sign this thing, do this thing. You need to be organized. And clearly she is not.
Okay. So for the people listening right now, if you want to talk about competence as an argument with people as to why Republicans like Donald Trump shouldn't be put in charge of the federal government, take out a pen and I'll give you your 3-part argument. Okay. 1, you cannot have people in charge of natural disasters who do not believe the weather is changing in the world. Like, if you fundamentally do not believe that climate change is real and that weather science, forget climate change for a moment, that weather science matters and is a science, you can't be in charge of emergency management. That's point number 1. Point number 2, if you do not believe in holding people accountable when they make mistakes, if all you care about is whether the mistake can be covered, then you cannot put people in positions of authority. This is an administration that has a regular record of, if somebody makes a mistake, they figure out how to slide it away. The only time people are held accountable is if they have to fall on a sword for Donald Trump when he made a mistake, right? Or for J.D. Vance, right? That's why Mike Walls has been slid over to the UN ambassador job so that they can make the signal thing go away, right? So that's number 2. If you don't believe in holding people accountable, you can't be in charge of important stuff. And then number 3, if you believe that picking a team is about casting, because that's what this is. I mean, from the beginning, everybody has said Donald Trump likes people who are out of central casting. Then you are not picking people to do jobs. You are picking people to look like they are doing jobs. And Kristi Noem is a person you pick to play the Department of Homeland Security secretary in a movie about what happened in an emergency. It's not the person you pick to actually do the job. Pete Hegseth is the person you pick maybe to be the press secretary at the DOD, not to be the head of the DOD. And when you pick people who are actors, you get actors who are acting and not people who are doing.
Yeah, amen to that. It's really sad. And I think the problem is we're not even in the heart of hurricane season yet. And so we're going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff. This is a group of people who are just not up to the job, and I hope I'm wrong about that. Yeah,
let's look at this other quote. Speaker Johnson.
Let me tee this up.
Yeah, please.
Which is, there's another part of this is related to the Hurricane Helene stuff, right? So, you know, we were talking last year about Asheville and Western North Carolina and all the politicization of that. And when you stack this up against what happened there, it's not even close, right, in terms of the response. But obviously the disingenuousness of the response from Trump and his allies is so apparent. It's like not even worth talking about. The other thing that's going on is California has obviously dealt with a lot of disaster this year and is waiting on aid. And Speaker Johnson was asked about this because it seems like, at least the people asking these questions are like, are we only giving aid, disaster aid, to red states now? And this is how he handled this series of questions.
Mr. Speaker, your office has told me the holdup on Congress taking up disaster aid for California is that you're waiting for the White House to send an official request. The president has indicated no interest in doing so, in part because of his tiff beef with Gavin Newsom, whatever you want to call it. will you commit to including California in any disaster aid package passed out of the House, whether it be Texas, the Carolinas, regardless of the president's feelings about California?
Well, first of all, we wouldn't know how much to commit because there's a process that this goes through. The White House and every administration and every previous Congress, the White House takes the request of the state. After the calculations have been done, the assessments, there's a multi-step process to this. They take that, they send the request to Congress, and then Congress it goes through regular order and acts upon the request. We just haven't had that in California yet for whatever reason. Gavin Newsom seems to enjoy trying to stick his thumb in the eye of the White House and the Congress, which seems to be counter-purpose if he is requesting relief. Look, we're going to do the right thing at the end of the day. We'll take care of the American people. We'll take care of our federal responsibilities. But we've not seen the calculation nor the formal request yet, and I'm going to act upon it until we do.
The formal request was sent to your office in February.
I would get the request from the White House and the executive branch. That's how this works. We're going to follow the rules.
So if you slow this thing down,
yes,
you see what he was doing. So he talks about the fact that there's a formal process coming from the White House. He then implies that actually it's Gavin Newsom being distracted by all this politics who hasn't sent in the request to the White House. When he's corrected on that and said, actually, this was sent in February, he then is like, oh, yeah, I'm talking about the White House hasn't sent me a request yet. So I'm like, well, what is all this stuff in the middle about Gavin Newsom? Like, he's sent in the request.
It's two things. One, it's a purposeful catch-22 because it's Donald Trump doesn't want California to get anything but, law enforcement presence. He doesn't want him to get anything for fires. He doesn't want him to get anything for any sort of disasters. So Trump's not asking us to do it. So therefore, as if this is like how a bill becomes a law. Well, don't you understand how this works? Like, I'm sorry. If that's how this works, then that's really stupid. And your job as Congress is to make it not work that way. If the way it works is the president doesn't want states that didn't vote for him to get actual disaster aid, you're the Speaker of the House. Like, you're supposed to be like, that doesn't seem like a good process. But one, he's just like, well, that's the process. And there's nothing in the world that I could imagine doing about it. Two, within that, he implies that the reason that it's not happening is because Gavin Newsom is sticking his thumb in the eye politically of the White House, which he refers to as counter-purpose. No, actually, in the United States of America, the people of California are not actually supposed to suffer because their governor disagrees politically with their president. That's not actually how it's supposed to work. And implying that that's so obvious just shows how far down the road of sadness we have gone down with people like Mike Johnson, who I can't believe, by the way, is still in office. Props to him, I guess. He's had to make quite a few compromises, as are evident from that clip.
Yeah, and it's particularly perverse because he's in Louisiana, which, as we know, is in the path of hurricanes every season. And there are going to be Democratic and Republican administrations who are going to be called upon to help your state. Now, it's even worse than this, Jason, because you know what they have been doing, right? What have they been doing?
Yeah.
Well, the people of California are trying to rebuild, right? Where do people go when they need to rebuild? Well, sometimes they show up to Home Depot, they hire the best labor they can find. What has the Trump administration been adamant about? Going to those Home Depots and intimidating people and arresting them and throwing them in prison,
and
in addition to all the other things. So basically, they're not only not sending in aid, but they're blocking the city of California from just going on with the normal course of rebuilding. They're actually standing in the way. Like, it's doubly bad. And that's before we even get to the fact that only now have we seen half of the troops leaving California. Does anybody know what the hell they've been doing over those past few weeks? Like, anything productive those troops were doing? Complete waste of time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, with that, let's bring in, I think we're joined now by Senator Angus King, independent senator from the great state of Maine. Senator, you are the former governor of Maine and an independent. And I know one of the things we're going to discuss is sort of your feeling that one of the things we're missing is civics and that sort of stuff. But before we get into that, there is some breaking news today, which is that President Trump has been showing around to congressional Republicans a letter where he wants basically firing the Fed chair. Have you heard this? And I'm curious what your reaction is to it. And also, hello, good to have you.
Nice to be with you, Jason. And yeah, I've heard it, but I've heard two versions. I got one text this morning, one alert from the Wall Street Journal that he was talking about firing the Fed chair. And then another alert from the Wall Street Journal about an hour later said he's not. He said, oh, no, I'm not thinking of doing that. I may someday, but not now. But, so what else is new? Policy changes from hour to hour.
Well, yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, you're by choice. You are an independent senator, so you are a good person to ask. I think this question of, you know, the Fed chair being independent and us having this tradition of where presidents don't really fire them and don't really try to take over fiscal policy. Can you talk about why you think that it's important that that tradition be upheld?
It's very dangerous that it not be upheld because the Fed's independence is important. Do you want Congress setting interest rates? Do you want the president setting interest rates? Oh, I'm going to have an election in 6 months. Let's lower interest rates and everybody can party, even though that may contribute to inflation 8 months from now. No, the independence of the Fed is important. It's served us well over the years. I know it's always irritated presidents of various parties, but Chairman Powell, I think, has done a really good job, and they're to fire him because he's not lowering interest rates in a month where just yesterday we learned inflation is clicking back up again. That's it's terrible policy because the next chair of the Fed will constantly be looking over his or her shoulder about wanting to suck up to who the president is for fear of being fired. That ain't the way this thing is supposed to work.
Go ahead, Ravi.
Well, I was going to say, Senator, if I remember correctly, his term is up in May, which means that we would be heading into a midterm election with whoever Trump would nominate. This is going to sound like a joke, but I'm somewhat serious about this. Should we expect 0% interest rates next May, like based on the precedent that this president has set in terms of bodies that were previously independent?
Well, that's a worry because I remember he complained before about Powell not lowering interest rates. Powell's doing what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be balancing employment and inflation. And that's what they watch from month to month. And I think they were prepared to lower interest rates until those new inflation numbers came out yesterday of almost 3% year over year in the month of June. So, yeah, I think it is a concern. I can tell you that during the first Trump administration, he had at least one Fed nominee that as I recall, we opposed, we knocked out, or they were withdrawn. But yeah, that's going to be a concern, and it underlines why you don't want politicians controlling something like this that could be in the long-term detriment to the economy.
Senator, you were elected as and remain an independent. You were an independent governor, I believe, right?
Correct. Yep.
As well. And Maine, by the way, is one of my favorite states in the summer.
I was just there actually last week. I was at the Cliffside Inn in what is it? Right by York.
Yeah.
And Maine's just such a beautiful place, and also kind of the perfect place for an independent. It seems like there's really, truly a lot of independent thinking politically there, and you're rarity on the show in that we do have a fair amount of politicians on, but usually either Ravi or myself or both have a pre-existing relationship, and this is, I think, the first time either of us is meeting you. So I was reading a little more about you. No, it's good. You and I mean, we may have shaken hands at some point before, but we don't really know each other. And I was interested in your history where you were elected as an independent, and you said something I thought seemed very Maine-like and very practical when you were elected, which is, look, I'm going to caucus with the Dems, I think, because I think they were in the majority when you came in, and you said, if the Republicans take the majority, I might caucus with them just because that's what's best for Maine. And then ultimately, because of the MAGA movement, you made the determination that you could not caucus with the Republicans. And I just would love to hear, and I'm sure you've answered this before, but I'd love to hear sort of looking back, what that thought process was like for you.
Well, in the first place, my first inclination when I was elected to the Senate in 2012 was to put my chair in the middle of the aisle and just be totally independent. What I quickly learned was that you get your committee assignments through one or the other of the caucuses. So that meant in order to be an effective senator, if I wanted to have a role on committees, I had to choose. I talked to the Republicans, I talked to the Democrats. Harry Reid, who was the leader at the time, I said, look, the only thing I'm asking is that you respect my independence and not lean on me and expect me to, to vote with you all the time. And by the way, joining a caucus basically means who you have lunch with on Tuesday.
Yeah, I've been to that lunch. It's a
There's
lovely lunch.
yeah, but there's no, you don't have to sign in blood or make a, a long-term commitment. And Harry said, he said he would respect that. And in fact, in 4 years, he only asked me for 2 votes. One of them, I was going to vote with him anyway. And the other one, I voted against him. So that's been a good experience. And since that time, there's a sea change in the Republican Party since 2013. People like Lamar Alexander and Rob Portman and the people that were sort of in the middle of doing bipartisan deals and working together, most of them are gone. And so now, frankly, on issues like social issues, abortion, gay rights, those kinds of things, I just couldn't find a home over there. So I'm staying put. Now, to be, totally honest, the Republicans would say, he's really 2/3 or 3/4 of a Democrat. But I've had my principles stay the same over the years, but the parties have sort of shifted one way or another around me.
Go ahead.
I have a question about just the culture of the Senate. So you mentioned like there are these lunches on Tuesdays. I spent time on the Hill, but not nearly enough to understand, especially where we are today. When there are these opportunities for senators to have lunch with each other, whether it's like of the same caucus or even across the aisle and have committee hearings and all that, all I see when I'm watching like the equivalent of C-SPAN is like either empty chairs or people staring at their phones. Am I wrong? Like, it just feels to me, I'm like, are people even getting to know each other anymore? Like, is there any slow pace of life on the Hill anymore for people to really build that connective tissue?
Not very much, Ravi. And one of the problems, and by the way, I worked here as a staff member back in the 70s. I was, believe it or not, I was a staff member of the U.S. Senate during Watergate, and remember the Senate then and now. One of the biggest differences, and this sounds sort of weird, but it has to do with the Senate schedule. Right now, the schedule is the first vote you have to be in town is Monday afternoon after 5. The last vote you have to be in town is generally Thursday afternoon around 1:30 or 2. What that means is everybody leaves Thursday afternoon and doesn't come back till Monday afternoon. So there's no social life. Just as you point out, there's no getting to know your colleagues. Back in the 70s and 80s, everybody lived here. Their families were here. They worked for about 4 weeks and then they'd go home for a week. Now it's every weekend. So we literally don't know each other. And I've tried to overcome that myself by inviting a random group of senators every so often over to my house for ribs, beans, and coleslaw, just to chat and get to know each other. And I've had, 55 or 60 senators at this time. I've had Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz and Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, not all at the same day, but always bipartisan. But you've identified a very important point. One of the reasons it's hard to get things done is a lack of relationships. And one of my mottos in life is you shouldn't do the ask until you have the relationship. And they're precious few around here. And it really does contribute to the fact that not much gets done.
Sadly, that is representative of the change that's happened in America in that time. Is that it feels like as Americans, we don't know each other the way we used to. We don't have these common experiences. We don't have these things. And it kind of brings me to one of the things I wanted to talk with you about is you are known for going around Maine and spending time teaching about the Constitution and teaching about civics, basically 6th grade civics. And, in talking to your staff initially before we did this interview, one of the things they pointed out is that you are really sort of a believer in the idea that that's a lot of what America needs right now is to revisit 6th grade civics. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of talk about that for a moment.
Well, two things. I want to talk about what you pointed out at first about how we're not talking to each other as citizens. One of the problems, Jason, is that right now we've got people in this country who are in different factual universes. Mm-hmm. And if you watch Fox News and you're on the internet and you click on something about Hillary Clinton, you're going to go down the rabbit hole. And the same thing on the left. If you watch MSNBC, if you're a big fan of Rachel, somebody said to me the other day, when people go to the media, they're looking for affirmation, not information.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem because in my experience in public policy, if you don't have agreement on the facts, it's almost impossible to reach a policy solution. On the other hand, if everybody around the table has the same facts, the solution becomes almost self-evident. So this is a real fundamental problem, is that we have people in this country go, as I say, on different factual universes, and it makes it so hard to solve problems because they just have so if you're on the right side, immigrants are rapists and murderers and taking our jobs. If you're on the left, they're good people who are trying to make their way just like our ancestors did, and they're teachers of the year. So somehow we have to get to communicating the facts. Second point is about civics. One of the problems is people just don't understand how our government is supposed to work, and particularly this administration. People say that Donald Trump is trying to be a dictator. I think he thinks he is. Because he believes that he has all this power. He once said, I have the immensely powerful Article 2. Well, if you read Article 2, it doesn't give the president much power at all. And in fact, the principal provision of Article 2 is the president, quote, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Do you think he follows that provision?
To a T, Senator, to a T.
Yeah, right. So
crushing it.
The concern I have right now, and the reason I'm just very worried about this moment, is this isn't politics as usual. This isn't Republicans and Democrats and thinking about the midterms and the next presidential election. What's going on now is a collapse of the constitutional structure that the framers set up to divide power on purpose. And it wasn't because they wanted a complicated structure or busy work for senators. It was because they knew that concentrated power is dangerous, Madison in the 47th Federalist said, if you have the legislative, executive, and judicial power in one set of hands, it's a perfect definition of tyranny. I think it's really interesting. This guy used the word tyranny, and that's where we're headed. And that's what worries me. I keep trying to wake up my Republican colleagues that this isn't politics as usual. We've never been in a moment like this where we've had presidents always try to expand their power and authority, and Congress always, to some extent, abdicates. But we've never been in a place where a president is so aggressively trying to essentially take all power into his set of hands, and the Republican majority has been so supine in letting him get away with this. We're in the middle of a series of votes right now on this rescission thing, which basically shreds the whole appropriation process. We're allowing the administration to come in and say, we're going to cut all these things that you voted for in the budget last year, and it's and we're going to decide what goes and what stays, and all you can do is rubber stamp it. That's totally antithetical to the way our system's designed. And to go back, this isn't because I'm jealous of senatorial power and all that kind of thing, although that's what Madison thought would preserve us. It's because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's the moment that I'm afraid we're in. And that's why, it's a cliche to talk about checks and balances, but they're there for a reason.
Yeah, that was so eloquently put that I'm a little embarrassed to raise this next question that feels so silly in comparison, but I think is actually illustrative of what you're talking about, which is you have a political party, the Republicans, who just spent 2 years trying to win an election by talking about the Epstein files. And now we've just had a vote in Congress where they're like, no, we won't be asking for those. I feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't ask you to at least comment on. I'll give you an actual question to answer, which is, it feels like because this is sorted and it is what it is, and it's been talked about for so long. This feels like, for the first time in a while, something that might break through on the right, and we talked about that at the top of the show. It might actually create some division for Trump within his base. But what I'm curious about is, do you feel like it's also breaking through as an issue with persuadables and across are people in Maine interested in this? And is it for them illustrative of the idea that maybe this guy is the establishment and is acting like a regular politician, and that he could be punished for that politically?
Well, I don't want to disappoint you, but I've never had anybody ask me about it on the street.
That was my guess, and that's what I wanted to know.
No, what's going on now seems to be a civil war within the MAGA movement, because this was a sort of article of faith that there was some kind of conspiracy, and it was being kept secret and being kept from the people, and then these are people trying to run the world and elites and all that kind of thing. And Donald Trump stirred it up and catered to it during the campaign. And then his Department of Justice, I call it the department formerly known as Justice. She talks about, I've got the list on my desk, and we're going to be transparent. And then all of a sudden, never mind, nothing to see here. And I think to his followers, it's come as something of a shock. I don't think it's going to go away. And it's not, interestingly, he tried to blame it on the Democrats and Joe Biden and Barack Obama. I know no Democrats that have ever mentioned it, talked about it. It's never come up in a caucus. It's not something that I think, I think that the Democrats are kind of breaking out the popcorn and watching this.
Yeah.
But they're not engaged in the issue one way or the other.
Okay. Well, now that we did the sort of that topic of the day, I'll close by asking this, because you spoke a lot about your concerns for the country right now, and for the structure of government and where we're going, which we share. What is your level of, I'm not going to say optimism, because optimism implies no agency. But what is sort of your assessment of the situation of hope right now?
Yeah.
I'll just let you leave it there.
Well,
talk to us about that.
It's interesting you use the word hope. Napoleon once said that a leader is a dealer in hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what people are looking for right now. And it is a dark time. But I sense that people are figuring that out. And they're figuring out that this isn't what they voted for. This isn't what they believe the direction the country should be moving in. If you talk about optimism, I do believe that the public is paying attention. Now, the problem is the only effective power the public has is in elections, and that's not going to be for almost a year and a half. If we'd had this discussion 6 weeks ago, I would have talked about the courts, but the courts have just totally abdicated. This decision they made day before yesterday on the Department of Education, where basically they just completely punted, was grossly irresponsible. It wasn't even signed. They didn't have the, to sign the opinion, and so the courts, as far as I'm concerned, we can't rely on them. The lower courts maybe, but not the Supreme Court. And the Senate, as long as the Republicans keep towing the line, we're not doing our job. So it leaves the public. And if I have to express a positive, it's that I believe in the American people. And ultimately, I think they're going to do what's right here. But they have to stay engaged, stay involved, keep pressuring their legislators, particularly the Republicans, to say enough is enough. And I keep asking my buddies up there, where do you draw the line? So far, they haven't done it, but I'm keeping at it, man.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for spending time with us. We enjoyed it, and hopefully, we'll run into you either in DC or in Maine.
Well, I hope you'll come up to Maine. I think, Ravi, you were at the Cliff House, probably. Is that?
That's right. Beautiful.
Yeah, fantastic place. That was where I went the night after I won the governorship. And you know what we did? I got all the staff together of the campaign, and we watched Blazing Saddles.
Oh man, it's the best, Jason. I'll tell you about it in a second, because Senator, we always talk about what we did the previous week, so I'll give Jason a readout on that just great part of Maine. By the way, I've done mostly north, like gone north when I get to Portland. It's the first time I've gone south. Great spot. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime. And if you come in February, you get character points.
Yeah, I did that once. I'll see you in the summer.
Hey,
I
thanks,
got a lot of
fellas.
character, but
Yeah.
thank you very much, Senator.
All right. Great to be with you.
All right. Good to have you. I like him a lot.
Yeah, nice guy.
Absolutely.
You don't see him like that anymore,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
cool
that's
to
true.
see.
That's true.
Maine. Yeah, I was just in Maine with some mutual friends that Jason, and we do like this guys trip like once or twice a year, and we decided to do Maine. And I've now done Maine the past 3 summers, and Maine is gorgeous in the summertime, man. And the area that he's talking about, so I went to like South Maine, which is like the kind of Kennebunkport area, like where the bushes go and stuff like that. And like it's like a little fancier. I usually go north where there are fishing villages and stuff, but so it's a little pricier. It's like a lot of Boston people, but super, super nice, surfable waves, things like that. But the highlight of the whole thing was when we got off the plane, we went to shout out to these folks, if we have any listeners who know them, this place called Even Tide in Portland, Maine, for people listening.
Yeah, I've been there. You got a lobster roll?
Yes, man. Best lobster rolls in the world, man.
Unbelievable. And
it's crazy.
And expensive. It's like $14 and it's like 2 bites.
Well, welcome to New York.
Yeah.
New York, it's actually
actually worth it. So good.
So that was amazing. The oysters were the best oysters I've ever had. So so Even Tide, if you're going to Portland, listeners,
it's like you walk up that little hill. It's like on the corner.
Yep.
There's like a line outside usually.
There wasn't this time, thank God. We just kind of stopped in, and it was awesome. Like it was mind blowing.
I love it. The menu has like 5 things on it.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want it hot or cold? Like,
yeah, go there, order a bunch of oysters, and yes, get the lobster roll. It's pretty rich. It's like a pastry almost, but it is amazing. Like absolutely insane.
That is the first lobster roll I ever had, and it has ruined lobster rolls anywhere else for me.
Dude, it's the only lobster roll I've ever had in my life. And I was like, I never really thought to order a lobster roll. I was like, is this what all lobster rolls taste like? Or it's like, no.
I hate to tell you, it's not. I mean, lobster rolls are great, but they're not all like that. And that is so funny. Yeah, that is the first place I ever had one. So Maine was like, for me, for years, I was like, I want to see Maine in the summer. You know, I've been to 47 states. And when I was, basically running for president, I was getting around to all of them. And even before that, I was traveling a lot in the Senate campaign to go and raise money and stuff like that. And in 2015, over the summer, they were like, okay, the election's in November of 16. This is going to be your last free 5 days. We're going to give you 5 days off, the staff was. And then after that, it's all work for the next, like 18 months. And I was like, okay, so Diana and I were like, let's go to Maine because we'd never been and we really wanted to. So we get tickets, and the flight was going to connect in Baltimore. And Baltimore's great. I love Baltimore, but we lived in DC for several years. We've experienced a lot. There's not a lot in Baltimore we haven't seen. And so we were connecting in Baltimore, and then there was an outage. It was this one random day several years ago where there was an outage where no flights were going, and so we couldn't get to Maine on that trip. And then not only that, we couldn't get our bags. So in our last vacation for 18 months, instead of getting to Maine like we had dreamed of in the summer, we wore the same clothes for 5 days and saw a bunch of stuff in Baltimore we had seen before. And then finally, like 2 years later, I was asked to come and keynote the Maine Democratic Party's whatever. And and Maine was, it actually, even after all that, it lived up to the expectations. And then the one thing I did reference with the senator there is I've been invited back to Maine since one time, and it wasn't winter. And it did affirm for me that I'm a Maine summer type of visitor. Lovely place.
Great spot.
Love Maine.
Love the Mainers.
Yeah, and that man, I'm like salivating thinking about that lobster roll.
Well, it's only 4.5 hours away drive from where I am right now, which doesn't make sense. But given it's like a 9-hour drive to Buffalo, so
that is crazy.
I don't understand geography, but it's gotten me thinking about it because my dad has a car, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go to Maine a lot more because that's 4.5 is nothing, man. You drive around. When I was doing Nashville prep, I would drive like 11 hours to like Jackson. It would be nothing.
Yeah, we drive out here. We drive distances, no big deal. When I was growing up, it's funny. People on the East Coast or the West Coast always talk about how they look at the middle of the country and they just see a bunch of big squares and rectangles and they don't know what's what. If you grew up in the middle of the country, you look at the East Coast with all these little states, and it's very hard to learn which states are which. And for the longest time growing up, I thought that on the map, I thought Maine was New York because one, like it's big, And I just thought, like, well, a lot of people live there. That must
Yeah.
be. And the other thing I knew was it seemed that a lot of people's story was that their family showed up and the first place they went was New York. And Maine sticks out like that.
Yeah.
And so what's funny, like, I know when I look at a map, I know what's New York and I know what's Maine. But my brain, even to this day, I'm 44 years old, my brain, I have to remember when I look at an unlabeled map that is not New York, because I believed that for so many years as a kid growing up in the middle of the country. So,
By the way,
anyway.
it's something about being a kid in maps. Like,
It's
I'm
special.
freaking obsessed with maps. Like as a
Yeah.
kid, I just love
Globes,
maps.
like you would
Love
just
maps.
spin the
Yeah.
globe and be like, just point and be like, what's that? If I had Wikipedia as a kid with a globe and an ability to just, I want to,
No, dude, yeah. My parents, I used to force them to go to the bookstores, and they would have these like fact books. Did you have these too? Like where there'd be pictures,
yeah.
and it'd be like the biggest lizard in the world is the. And I could not get enough of these things.
could
I would
memorize
send
it, right?
I would send my mom all over the place trying to find certain fact books. I remember one time we were living in California and I was like freaking out because I had only one fact book and I needed more fact books. And there was like one bookstore in Palm Springs. There's no Amazon. So it's like, and that's where we lived for a whole year. And I was just like, I've read all the fact books. I need more facts.
Dude, one of my favorite things is to, like, when, I think you and I both love traveling. You do it a lot more than I do, but is to go to a place and is to wait to like get to the place. And like, we're there on a family vacation, like it's Mexico or somewhere like that, and particularly like a province of Mexico. And then Wikipedia, everything I can possibly learn about like the current politics of the place, the history too, because you got to understand the history to get there. But like, and then Diana will get so annoyed because I'll be like, oh, they have like a parliamentary system here, and they have and I'll get into, oh, check this out. This is how they've established the water contract in this town, and it's a big controversy. And she's just like, can we just go look at the sunset?
Well,
And so-
the extra version of this now is like, amen to that. What you said, I do that too. It's like now I'm obsessed with Zillow searching, both before I get there, but also while I'm there.
we were
and I'll
doing
be
this
like
when
on
we
a
were in
block.
St. Louis. We would walk around and you'd be like, oh, you just see a house and be like, let's Zillow this.
Yes, I just love to know everything about the house. I've probably mentally purchased 10,000 houses in my head over the past couple of years. If I were a billionaire, I would own 20 houses. Not because I want like to live in 20 houses, just I just am so obsessed. Like to me, houses are like cars.
Yeah, you'd be
Like,
collecting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you like this kind of nonsense, you're going to love our other show, which is The Game Within on Valor Media Network, which is actually a little more substantive than that. But still, it streams live at 2:30 Central on Mondays, drops on audio on Monday evenings or Tuesday mornings. And it is really about the intersection of sports and politics, and to somewhat increasingly, it's the intersection of pop culture and politics. And it's a lot of fun for us to do. We do it with our friend Adisu Demisi, and you should check that out as well. You can follow me at Jason Kander everywhere. And you can follow Ravi at Ravi M. Gupta everywhere. Thank you very much for listening. Please leave a 5-star review. Thank you to the Midas Mighty. Remember, we all have a platform. Make sure to use yours today.